I'm Sister Jeanne O'Rourke, a Sister of Mercy. I have been an educator for several years, and now I host a tea room at Mercy High School.
I'm Sister Kathleen Erickson, originally from North Dakota, and I started out as a teacher, but I ended up going to the border down in New Mexico and have spent quite a bit of time working with immigrants and migrants and in different countries, that kind of thing.
I'm Sister Jeanne Ward. I'm a Sister of Mercy for 66 years. And I've been an educator. I worked at the orphanage. I was part of founding Mercy Housing Corporation, low-income housing. And currently I'm retired. That her concern was for the poor, for women, especially when she first started the community. It was to take care of young women who were being abused in mostly domestic housekeeping situations. And so she had a place for them to live where it was safe, and also education. And that was my primary goal in entering the community, was for education, to be like Catherine McCauley. Her type of education was with the poor and illiterate. I never taught illiterate kids, but I did teach a lot of poor children. I was in several parish situations where they were primarily Hispanic kids from very poor families. And so my first teaching experience was with 44 second graders, some of whom knew nothing, even the alphabet, and some who were already doing like fifth grade work. So that was quite a span to try to cover.
I would like to speak about Catherine McCauley's love for the poor, her idea of service, and I think a driving force in her story is the fact that she too experienced homelessness. Her father died when she was 5. Her mother died when she was still a teenager. So she found housing first with friends, again with relatives, and then finally a wealthy couple who had no children needed help, and they were very attracted to Catherine McCauley's idea of service, I think, and the way that she related with people. She lived with them and helped them. That's how she was able to access the money. She gained their estate and was able to go downtown Dublin and build a home and bring in women coming into Dublin seeking housing. Some lived just in hovels and even brothels. And so her love for service, that was the biggest attraction for me. All I wanted to do as I was becoming more serious about choices, finishing high school, my biggest desire was to find some way to serve people. And I was attracted to the missions and with the Glen Marys, and really thought I wanted to be some type of missionary. But yet I went to high school with the Sisters of Mercy, and also my great auntie, Sister Constance Walsh, who was the first dean of this college, which opened in 1923. I remember visiting her as I was elementary student and going into high school. And I loved her hospitality, her desire, deep desire to make sure that especially young girls and women were educated. She told me when I was going into high school, you must take 4 years of Latin She had that kind of a husky voice and very in charge. And I thought, whoa, I guess I will. I made it through my junior year of Latin. So anyway, the attraction to sum this up would be the whole idea of service, and Catherine McCauley, just that exudes in her very life and in the sisters that I knew as well.
I don't really have a very good entrance story for the Sisters of Mercy. I never thought I would be a Sister of Mercy, and I was in North Dakota, but I have no idea why I entered. In a way, I didn't really know. They didn't talk about Catherine McCauley much, but there was just something that told me I was going to do this. I was going to try it. And I remember when we got the list of stuff you had to bring with you, and I said to my mom, I'm only going to be gone for a couple of weeks. I said, I don't know why I'm doing this. And so we had this big
Trunk.
the trunk that we all had to have a trunk, and we had a whole list of things that we had to take with us. And it was all, like you had to have a black bathrobe. And do you remember that? You had a black bathrobe, and you had to have a certain number of aprons, and all these weird things. And so when my mom was helping me get ready for that, I was saying, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I don't even know why I'm doing this. She said, with all this, you better stay longer than 2 weeks. She said, this is too much work. And my parents, especially my dad, was just horrified. He could not believe. He said to me, if you want to wear a blanket on your head, I'll give you any blankets you want. He said, you don't have to go there. And I don't know. My vocation is still a mystery to me. I really don't know. I think I had a certain kind of spirituality, or a kind of serious about my beliefs and God and that sort of thing, but I never really, it wasn't formed in any way. It was just, I thought, and people would say, why are you doing that? And I have no idea. I had no idea why I was coming. It was weird. So here I am, how many years later?
66.
66 years later, and
So Catherine McCauley didn't have
Catherine
much
McCauley
to do
really
with
didn't.
you entering.
I hardly even knew who Catherine McCauley was, and then when I came, thinking I was going to be back home soon, I didn't leave, and it wasn't because I was one of the happiest people here. It was just I just have a weird vocation story.
I was campus minister at Mercy High School for 18 years. The spirit of welcoming spirit is there. It bounces off the wall. It's inclusivity is, and with the amount of diversity, and it's just a place, one of the best places I've ever been. And I thought, what can I do? Well, the inspiration was because when Catherine McCauley was dying, so many people were coming to her, help her to move over to the other side. She told them, make sure you have a comfortable cup of tea when I'm gone. And as Sisters of Mercy, hospitality is our charism. And I thought, would students take a liking to tea? And I can bake the cookies, and Sister Jeanne and I provided all the cookies. She was the artist and decorated them, and I used my mom's sugar cookie recipe. So all of a sudden, this just flourishes, and the World Herald did an article about it, came out and took pictures, and then the teacups kept coming into the high school. I've never purchased a teacup. I have 100-some China teacups, gorgeous, as well as teapots. Now, the students find the tea room just a comfort, a place of peace. They can come in all stressed out, and they leave saying, how grateful they are that we have a place for them to come. It's worked well, and there's an energy flow. Topics are sometimes focused, and sometimes they choose what they want to talk about. But the teacup is in one of our chapel windows. It's the mercy window that symbolizes our hospitality for one another.
Well, I've been connected with the Sisters of Mercy since, she's laughing because I always say that I decided to be a Sister of Mercy when I was in the 2nd grade, which is true. I went to St. Bernard's Grade School and Mercy High School. I worked at St. James Orphanage from 6th grade through high school, and then that was my first assignment out of the junior aid. I wanted to be like the sisters at St. Bernard's and at the orphanage in terms of the way they were giving. There were 8 kids in our family. We could never have afforded a Catholic education without the help of the Sisters of Mercy. And I think that we as a community have always tried to benefit families that could not afford Catholic education. Certainly Mercy High School does, especially the sisters at St. James Orphanage, who spent all of their lives taking care of the kids who either families didn't want or couldn't afford to keep. And my first assignment as a junior professor when I was 22 maybe, was with the little girls department. I had 32 little girls between the ages of 2 and probably 8 that I was responsible for. And these were kids who had been rejected by families or dropped off. And that's who the Sisters of Mercy took care of. And when I was a kid, I always wanted to be like those sisters. And they wouldn't have called that hospitality, I'm sure, but that is hospitality.
Well, they were the only nuns I'd ever known, for one thing. I was in North Dakota, like I said, and grew up, and they were in both the grade school and the high school there. And so when I was going to go to a community, and like I say, it's a mystery to me. But I came to the Sisters of Mercy, and I was appalled when I discovered that a lot of them were from places like Mercy High and knew each other and had all of this history together. And I didn't really know. I didn't know the Sisters of Mercy. I didn't know what had drawn me there exactly.
People who entered with us in 1959, we entered together. People came from all around the country, really. And those of us who grew up and lived in Omaha, we knew each other. 9 of us had gone to Mercy High and graduated together. And so it was difficult for people who came in from other places like North Dakota.
Or Missouri. I mean, there were people from other places.
Colorado. And so there was an adjustment period. And they each had their own story about how they chose the Sisters of Mercy. Like Kathleen said, it was the only order they knew. Jeanne probably, she said she looked at other communities and had a reason why she chose the Sisters of Mercy. They were the only community that I was connected with.
Mm-hmm. I suppose ultimately the answer is that this is where I belonged. I mean, this is what I was supposed to do. And I came very close to leaving all the time, But I suppose as the spirituality grew, as I began to understand more about mission or about, like she talks about caring for the poor and social justice, I think is where I ultimately is what got a hold of me, I think. They both nod their heads.
Well, your passion for the border, certainly.
Well, yeah, but that was a few years later. But early on, when I was here in Omaha, we began to. I just happened to know people who were going to Sac Air Force Base because they were demonstrating, because of the arms buildup that was going on at the time and things that were happening in Latin America that I knew nothing about. And so we had a little retreat, the group that was going to, that was talking about that stuff and was going to SAC and getting ban and bar letters, and then you could get arrested if you kept going and they kept telling you couldn't come. We had a little gathering one day, and somebody said to me, you really ought to go to Nicaragua. And I said, where's Nicaragua? Why would I go to Nicaragua? I had no idea. So it was just sort of a gradual thing that happened in my life that drew me to, did go to Nicaragua and was horrified at what I discovered about U.S. interaction with people in Latin America, and also seeing the poverty and that kind of stuff. That's what ultimately turned my life kind of in that direction. So it was more about the ministry, I guess, or the service than it was necessarily about the community, although the community is if I hadn't come to the community, I never would have gone to Nicaragua. And then from Nicaragua, I went to El Salvador and various places in Latin America. And I spent about 20 years near the border. So it changed my life. When I was at the border, there was a different kind of feel for me, I think. There was a real reason to get up in the morning. There were things to do. There were people that needed, not always somebody that needed assistance right directly, but being there made a difference. The fact that you were willing to live in an area where it wasn't first world living, but you were willing to live there and get to know the people and meet the people. And I started doing delegations to the border. And so I don't know how many delegations, over 100, I'm sure, that were like groups from Mercy High, groups from the college, groups from all over the country that wanted to come to the border. And so I started doing that, and that was very satisfying for me. I loved bringing people, driving them through Juarez, Mexico, and going from the wealthy place over to where the people who worked in these factories that belonged to the United States, Ford, General Motors are big, they have these big plants there, and they had moved there because they could pay so much less there than what they were paying in
Detroit.
in Detroit or somewhere. And so I would drive that van past through this wonderful country club area, and it looked like the United States, and then just keep going down the road, and you went into terrible poverty, where they were living in shacks and all that. Somehow it seemed to me that the United States was, well, I always say about myself, we mostly grow up in oblivion. We really don't realize what's going on. I didn't realize what was going on in the rest of the world, and it changed my life. So. Well, one of the things that we have started here in Omaha is a place that we call Omaha Welcome Strangers, because there are so many immigrants who come here from those countries. And for the most part, they are people, when I was in El Salvador, especially when I was in Honduras, because there were sisters there and I spent quite a bit of time there, you would see the violence, the danger that they were in. You would see what they longed to get away from and to have a normal life. And when it began to be that their children were in danger or their husband was killed or something, then they would think, I've got to get out of here. And they would start coming to this country. And so that's where I began to realize that people weren't coming here just to make more money or to take advantage of the United States or to eat dogs or any of the stuff that we hear about immigrants. It was that people were desperate. And that changed how I saw the relationship between immigrants and this country.
Women, the earth, immigration,
Nonviolence.
nonviolence, and racism. We have chapters where sisters are elected from the various Mercy communities across the United States. And so they meet for a week or more and discuss what's going on in the world and how can we best address those issues. So those are the 5 issues that came out on top. There's a lot of other issues, but those are the 5 that have come out on top. We were primarily a teaching and healthcare community. Even when we entered in 1959, those were really your 2 choices, to be a nurse or be a teacher. And then as society evolved and more lay people became involved in those ministries, we went into other ministries. Certainly, we have sisters who worked in jails, sisters who worked on the border, a number of sisters. Still some sisters involved in education, like Jeanne is. To put a focus on those things, housing, Mercy Housing. I was part of the group who founded Mercy Housing for low-income people. And that is a critical need, housing for the poor. Each of us has looked at what our calling is toward those 5 critical concerns. And many of them are more than one.
I'd like to speak to the housing piece because I think it's a wonderful history for us. We owned property in Bethesda, Maryland, and as we were becoming more one institute or community of mercy in the United States, we said that because that was an area that had become very wealthy, that we should not have that property. And we were dissolving. We used to be 9 regions. And once we dissolved that and became one institute, that property then was sold. And that was distributed between the 9 specific areas. So each of those 9 received the money from the sale of that property. And here in Omaha region, which included 18 states really, we said that money does not belong to us. We should give it to the poor. And so we had a Sister of Mercy, Sister Therese Tracy, took that whole idea, and before we were even hardly back home, she had began to put this together and say, we will begin Mercy Housing. And that began originally here in Omaha. Now there's several communities that join with us, and we have a number, I couldn't tell you, many homes or apartments rehabbed. We have here in Omaha, Crestview Village, and what was Mason School, that are for low-income families. So the housing is an issue that I think, when you ask the question about setting us apart, I think, and again, I go back to Catherine McCauley's side, that she experienced homelessness. This is an important piece of our history.
Well, they need to know and they probably get that in some form, the history of the College of St. Mary, how it was built by the Sisters of Mercy, with the intention of educating young women. There was a period of time where I think men were also enrolled, but to do the mission of the Sisters of Mercy. So they need to understand what the mission of the Sisters of Mercy is. And I think the campus minister here and the campus ministry program hopefully develops that in the girls and the young women. All over the city of Omaha, I run into people who say, oh yeah, I went to the College of St. Mary, mostly from the healthcare end. It's a very big program here. And they understand what our mission is in terms of healing or education. So I think that's what's important for them to know.
I would even like to go back to our arrival in Omaha. We were the first religious community to come, and then it was called Nebraska Territory. We came out here in the midst of the Civil War, arrived on the muddy banks of the Missouri on a steamer named Montana in 1864. So I would go to our original settlement here, and right away, those sisters had nothing in that house except a piano when they arrived. And they began right away, of course, giving piano lessons with education and serving. This was a big hub for the railroad, setting up a hospital right away.
I think you just need to look around. We were in a number of grade schools in Omaha, which were actually parish schools. They weren't Sisters of Mercy schools. And Mercy High School evolved from St. John's and St. Mary's high schools, came together to become Mercy High School. So Bergen Mercy Hospital in Council Bluffs, all you have to do is look around and see where the Sisters of Mercy have had a great impact on the city.
How do we currently embody that spirit? I think we grapple with that as we are experiencing diminishment, but I think that spirit, that driving force is still in us, and we speak out, I think, for especially the justice issues. I think our history is known, but individually, I think we still are out there trying to not only tell our story, but to challenge others. The challenge goes forth, I think, across our country, and we have wonderful justice teams that send us action alert. I just took an action alert right this morning, and so we continue the mission even though we're not in institutions now. So one by one, as we meet people, and one by one, I think and then I would like to talk about the associates. We have a really strong group of women and men that want to align with our values, be supportive of our mission. And I think, for example, Kathleen talked about Omaha Welcomes a Stranger. We have associates down there that welcome them and cook dinner for them. We have a group out at Restoring Dignity and the Furniture Project that helps refugees coming into the city. So the Circle of Mercy, we have a song that says the Circle of Mercy is timeless. I believe we are. And we empower one another to spread that mission of mercy. I think it's unending.
There's always a lot of speculation about what's going to happen when there are no more sisters. Mm-hmm. Jeanne is certainly correct in terms of diminishment of numbers and diminishment as the three of us are in the retirement ages. We don't have very many sisters that are actually still in paid positions. And so she's also right that we don't retire. I think maybe Kathleen said that, we don't retire. We have a sister who's 104 who lives out on the campus where I live. And just her being there among the people who live there is a tribute to her life of mercy for all those years. And she makes an impact on the people who live in her retirement center.
Because she goes around singing all the time.
Spanish, in Spanish.
You're talking about Concetta.
Yeah, Concetta.
I'm thinking 104.
But we also have a number of Mercy associates on the campus here and at Mercy High School. And I never worry about what's going to happen when there aren't any more Sisters of Mercy. It's not going to happen, for one thing. But the associates are living the Mercy values, and they can speak the Mercy values. The kids at Mercy High School can speak the Mercy values.
Totally.
You know, I don't worry about diminishing numbers, because Mercy is always going to have an imprint certainly on Omaha, but all the way across the country. And it's built from Catherine McCauley up. I mean, we try to live the values that Catherine McCauley instilled in those original sisters. And I think we do. And that's what our associates are helping us to carry on, as there are a few of us. I'm sure there's a lot of girls on campus here who could not name a Sister of Mercy, who have never met a Sister of Mercy. At Mercy High School, Jeanne is the only Sister of Mercy who's there. And when I came back to Omaha in 1980, after having been a lot of other places, all of the faculty at Mercy High School were nuns. They were all sisters. So, you know, we've spread our future out through lay people, and we'd like to have the young women on campus here understand our mission well enough that they carry it on too. And I think that the young women who I've met who are in the nursing profession or the education profession can talk about what Mercy High School or College of St. Mary taught them about values. I think it's an evolution. I live at Emmanuel Village, which is a retirement community, and it was founded by the Lutheran community, and the Lutheran Church switched their emphasis to low-income housing and housing for seniors, and so there are a number of us who live on the Emmanuel campus now in a very mixed community. We closed our retirement center here on campus and moved the sisters out to Emmanuel. So some are in independent living, some are in assisted living, some are in long-term care. And I think we've made an impact on the lay people who live there by knowing our history. They're very interested in the history of the Sisters of Mercy and of the Catholic Church.
I think I'm kind of on a different wavelength in a way, because sometimes it seems to me like when we talk about the beginning of the Sisters of Mercy and the past and all, it was that people didn't have education. And the Sisters of Mercy really helped more people having the ability to be educated. There's something in the back of my head that says, but it's like moving on up. So you help people to become successful, to have a good job, to become part of our society. And I think, I don't know how to say this, but it's like, it isn't, like I find when people, like I talked about doing delegations to the border, when people who are in the middle class or the upper middle class and got a good education and all, they are oblivious in so many ways to what other people have to live with, have to deal with. And like here, for example, when we have all this business now about immigrants being deported, people would say, oh, yes, I care about that. But there's not a lot of involvement, I don't think. Like, yes, some of our associates do go over to Omaha Welcome Strangers once a week, or they've done it once or twice, to serve a meal for the immigrants there. That phrase, moving on up, comes to me quite a lot, because I think we have moved on up into middle class lifestyle. We're not living with the poor, and we're not taking, in my opinion, enough risks about speaking out for the poor. You know, speaking out for what's going on in the country about immigrants and that sort of. But you know, I have a reputation. It's, you know, that it's. I don't like the word justice exactly, but I guess that is the word. But see, I think it's really important to get people from a college like this to go to another country, or to go across the border, or to see what is really going on. I've been part of a group now for several years that have stood outside the College of St. Mary, outside a little ways down the street, with signs about immigration, children dying in detention. And I have come several times and invited people from over here. I think, gosh, that's something we can all do. No, you know, it's like we have our lives and we care about the poor. Even our stories of the beginning of the Sisters of Mercy were all related to people who didn't have an education or who were poor. And so the Sisters of Mercy helped them to get an education and to move up. And I am always trying to get it to go out besides up. It's to make more of an impact on what is happening to other people. You know, we get a good education and we're very delighted when somebody gets a great job, or they earn a new scholarship, or they get to go on. It's like moving on up. But I shouldn't have gone there, should I?
No, you're good.
What do we want for these college students is to not be oblivious to what the United States has done in so many countries that have made it harder for other people. And to go out beyond our understanding of what success is. To go beyond that. It's beyond that you now are successful because you have a great job or a great career or a great this or a great that. Yeah, that's great. But I think that Mother Macaulay would say, she was talking to the people, she was looking at the people who didn't have anything. They were in the streets, and she was opening a place for them. We don't do that, exactly.
We've done it in a lot of our ministries.
Yes, in our ministries we have.
If you want to say, what do we want for these women? I would say we want them to be so prepared academically, socially, spiritually, that they can be empowered enough to go out and make a difference. And everybody has a gift to give, and that they are so prepared and bold enough to speak in whatever arena or whatever area that they see the needs are, and that they see they have the gift to fulfill as best they can needs. Who knows what that's going to be in the future? You know, we know what today is, but that they are prepared for future generations to make a difference. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think the future is going to hold many challenges that we can't even imagine.
That's it. That's why
It
it's a
already
good-
is, sort of.
Yeah.
Her name is Sister Constance Walsh. She and Mother Lil Gallagher had this great desire that women should have access to education, both of whom graduated from Creighton University for their bachelor's and for their master's.
And there's a big plaque out there on the wall
Yeah.
dedicated to her.
The two of them were really the driving force. And in 1923, they opened the first college down on Castellar, I think 15th and Castellar. At the beginning, it was only a 2-year college. The preparation they were strong for preparing teachers. And the college then became in need of so much repair. It was a tall brick building, and the Sisters of Mercy then saw the need to build a new structure. This college then opened in September of 1955. Sister Constance continued her ministry in education. She was a librarian down at St. Catherine's Hospital, and she was an important part of our family. I think she really had a great influence on all of us. My 2 oldest sisters went to the old college, and as Jeanne says, there's a plaque at the front entrance that with her picture, with a bit of her story, and with all of our family relatives that have graduated from the college. She appeared to have a very gentle spirit, but she was very astute is the best adjective I can think for her. She was driven and saw the need for good education and inspired others in the desire to be well prepared, to work hard, really work hard, do your best, challenge yourself. That's why she says to me, you must take the 4 years of Latin. She thought that would be the best preparation for whatever. Then I thought I was headed into nursing. And that was really going to be the best preparation to be a nurse. For our family, we were very dedicated to her and visiting her and kind of sitting at her footsteps and being inspired by her. Just her presence, even though she was small of stature, but she was a driving force for us, I think.
Our focus is on what are the needs right now. It's how Mercy Housing started. And we have the resources to be able, and certainly selling the General 8 in Bethesda, Maryland, gave us $500,000. And that's how we started Mercy Housing. And it also became a charge for those of us who were looking for a ministry. I was one of like either 7 or 9, I forget, who got together with Sister Therese Tracy, who created the whole format for Mercy Housing Corporation. And now it's all over the country. Other communities have joined. And the same way with healthcare. We started out with Bergen Mercy and Mercy and Council Bluffs. Then we became Catholic Health Initiatives, and a lot of other communities have joined with Catholic Health Initiatives now. So it's like being a focal point and then drawing other resources, other communities into it. And that's what we would hope would come from the College of St. Mary, is a focus for the girls, for the young women, to do good things in their community. I agree with Kathleen that we don't look so much at other countries and what's happening in other countries. I look in North Omaha and in South Omaha, where there's a lot of poverty and a lot of single parents. And I think that Mercy High School has taken a number of kids from those situations because they have negotiated tuition, so they don't have to be able to pay a full tuition. College of St. Mary has programs that help kids come in. So I think it is spreading out across both the city of Omaha and much broader than that.
You know, I think when you say bold, I think, you know, first of all, Catherine McCauley and that Irish spirit, strong. And then we get over to the United States from Ireland 10 years after she died in 51. And we were rugged individuals then. We have stories of some of our sisters living in tents. They had no housing, and they were out there fighting, literally sometimes, with the authorities, and that made them strong women to go forward and put up with and be challenged. And I think that fighting Irish spirit that so many of us have caught causes us to move forward with and take risk.
And even Norwegians.
Even Norwegians.
I beg your pardon.
We cannot be silent about things that matter. And women empower all of society. You know, I think behind every successful man, there's a woman. That's the truth.